Welcome to episode 31 of the show. In this episode of HQLA, we talk generative content, self-fulfilling to-do lists, and artificially generated music, as well as many more things.
Oh, okay, cool. I can see where that last point might be related to what you're wearing.
So we all know you love intellectual property, Nathan.
Yeah, allegedly.
That's one of Nathan's 3 favorite things.
What are the other two? What are the other two?
Yeah, well, classic. We know he loves surfing and drumming. So
both of which I can do so much where I am right now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So hopefully you caught up with our last episode as well. It was episode 30, so it's pretty cool that we're up to 31.
Everyone knows that episode 30 is a defining moment in the podcasting world. It's really what defines the boys from the men.
That's right, yes. Yes, we were boys and now we are men.
Yes.
Or the other way around, depending on which way you look at it. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. So we were trackside at the supercars.
We were.
Since then, we went to the Formula Ones in Melbourne.
We did, and we thought about recording an episode, but it was just all a bit rushed.
Yeah. Fly in, fly out. It's a bit like that on HQLA. So,
bro, we're gonna get a comment from this guy again. What's the guy?
Yeah, we had a comment. We had a bit of a Twitter beef, not a Twitter beef, a TikTok beef. His name's he.reg.
Let's call him Reg.
Reg. Basically, the host is just bragging. He has accomplished nothing, and yet he's talking like Elon. Lol.
Okay, that's true. So this was in a reference to me talking about this concept where people could check the air quality around plantations to check to see whether there was pesticides and stuff in the air. And yes, he is absolutely right. I know absolutely nothing about that stuff. And Reg, you are not wrong at all.
Reg.
He, Reg. I totally agree with you. But I would just like to comment and make it known, make notice that I think Isaac just really did the same thing there. He mentioned that he was fly out to the F1. Did it really contribute to the conversation? I don't know. I think it was just him flexing.
I think it's true, though. We were flying. I was on a plane, so...
I reckon go hard on this one, Reg.
And then we've also got a comment from Big Doggy Mitch,
okay, what's Mitch
who
say?
I'm not affiliated with. Couldn't agree with you more, Reg. I bet Nathan hasn't spent one day on a farm like a real man. Also, very unhappy with the lack of fish content.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Bro, is that recent? Why did you not tell me about this comment sooner than right now? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Again, no, okay, I have been on a farm. Well, you can tell me if this class is a farm. Once, when I was in year 8, I think that makes you about 13, I went to China for a exchange trip for 2 weeks, and they took us to a rice paddy, which I would define as a Chinese farm, and they cooked a chicken, but before doing so, it was alive when we got there, and then they chopped its head off in front of us, and then they cooked it up in this wok, and then we had that for lunch.
That's very good. You didn't kill the chicken, though, did you?
I'm going to say that I, based on that experience, I'm fully authorized to be speaking about things like anything farming related, I'd say, from here on in.
I'd have to agree with you there. That's very good.
That's what I've got to say to you, Mitch.
He.reg also said, he literally posted this clip to brag, but gives the viewers nothing.
That's what I was referencing. That comment.
Yeah.
Is that a subsequent comment, is it? Does he say
That's
that
a different
later?
one. He literally posted this to brag, but it gives the viewers nothing. It was a pointless clip to post, might explain your low viewership. Yes. And to that we replied, you have no viewership.
Listen, it's very true. I think as humans, it's easy to say things in trying to make you yourself look better than you are. And so, Reg, I think you've really cut to the heart of it there. And I think it's very true. I'll take a long walk this afternoon and reflect on that and readjust, what I bring up on this podcast, and just ensure that everything I say is very neutral and doesn't make me look cast myself in any particularly favorable light, is what I would say. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I reckon that's it for Beef Corner. That's what we'll call it. It's farming related, but also beef. If you've got beef, start it in the comments on TikTok, this side or this side.
Yeah.
I was going to say below, but that's more of a YouTube thing. If you got beef on YouTube, put it below.
Yeah.
Beef on TikTok, put it on the right side of the screen.
Beef corner.
Earlier, we were talking about the Another Block hoodie. So Another Block is a startup we did a few podcast episodes for under Another Block Studios.
More than a few.
And more than a few. We did
Quarter of a
20,
century.
24, 25 episodes.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So I've actually, there's this song which has come out and it's called Heart on My Sleeve. And it's a collab between Drake and The Weeknd. So pretty big artists, right?
Yeah.
Except it wasn't. It was deepfaked using AI. Which is really interesting. So the song's actually pretty good.
Can I listen to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've got it right here.
Here we go. Oh yeah, there's The Weeknd. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I was listening to this and I actually think it's getting genuinely hard to tell that it's made by AI.
I mean, it sounds terrible. Like the audio quality is bad. Like the production value, so the actual sounds themselves are really bad, but the composition is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can imagine that made in a studio with that AI. You know, you can still tell that it's AI, but if you weren't paying attention, so I did this while I was doing something else, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually really good." And then it turned out it was made by AI. So Universal Music Group, which is home to both Drake and The Weeknd, jumped on this very quickly and shut it down for breach of intellectual property.
Yes, and that's why I'm listening to it on someone's channel called Tom Snow, who's got
That's right.
89 subscribers.
Yeah, that's right. So, and it's probably not going to be there by the time the episode's posted.
That's right.
So it was on streaming services.
Really?
And, yeah. So someone had uploaded it to Spotify under their name and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a proper, artist for this. But it definitely opens up a huge amount of possibility for people creating these deepfakes of content and falsely representing the artist in that music. So that was Universal Music Group that has shut that down. So yeah, obviously very big power there, but super interesting because I think they'll have a lot more of that to do. And I think it'll be interesting to see other people not being able to shut down as much because I think a lot more independent producers and things like that, they could get deepfaked and they don't have the legal power to shut down, or it'll take months to get it off delisted, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas Universal probably has a whole huge legal team.
And it would also be this, like practically speaking, it would also just be the sway they have in Spotify. They'd have a guy that they can just go straight to and be like, hey, just take it down.
Yeah, exactly.
And it will get taken down.
Yeah. They don't have to revert to policy and put through the request and all that kind of thing like a lot of people would. So I've got a second story which is related to that. So Grimes, who's a artist, singer, songwriter, producer, DJ, and Elon Musk's ex-girlfriend,
that's right.
mother of one of his children, XAA-XII Musk. She has a very interesting new take on AI. And it's actually as a response to this article which came out, which is really cool. So Grimes will split 50% royalties with someone who uses her voice, AI, and her team are making a program that'll actually make this split work. So it's a platform which will allow for the collection and payout of royalties. And you actually register your creation through this new platform. And then she'll also be using crypto to collect and pay out royalties, which is really cool.
Okay. And so her contribution is simply her voice. And you can take that and use it. Oh, so interesting. It's actually a little bit relevant to what I'm going to talk about as well. So keep going.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. Well, basically, the thing is, I think you will be, if you're the artist name, then you'll be creating it and putting it out there. And then you'll be collecting the royalties and splitting them with her, I guess.
In the same way that you would do it if she was the vocalist on your track, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So I suppose that's how that works. And then I guess this whole system is just, I won't sue you for doing this, you know? So,
well, that's right. It's putting probably some contract in place that makes it legally legit.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And then I guess also creators could possibly make something that she could release and then they would get paid. I'm not sure if it would go that way or not.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm sure if they prove themselves and they release something, feat Grimes or whatever, and then she thought it was actually good. I'm sure they'd reach out and collab for sure. It'd be a cool way to find decent collabs.
Yeah, so it's pretty sick. It's a perfect example of the opposite of what Universal did with Drake and The Weeknd. So it's really embracing that, and I think it's a really good and really bad idea at the same time. So it's really cool because it allows you to share IP. It creates a huge amount of new music for Grimes, which makes people actually listen to more of her music that's actually produced by her. Makes more people like more deepfake music with her in it as well, and then that will grow popularity. It could easily massively boost the popularity of the artist. The downside is people making terrible music with your AI voice and the brand reputation that comes with that. So imagine someone takes our podcast and starts giving out bad financial advice or something like that.
It's literally the same as like the Hermes thing that I was talking about the other week. It's like one of their claims was dilution of brand, and it's the same thing. Like this arrangement that you're talking about, it sorts out the intellectual property stuff, but it doesn't, as you say, it does nothing for her, the goodwill that's associated with her brand, which is Grimes. And so it's the same thing. Like Hermes could do the same thing. They could be like, oh, all right, instead of suing people, we're just going to let you use our branding. And that's all well and good, but they're not going to be selling any more $5,000 handbags.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you kind of have to protect your brand image, but at the same time, if you don't take yourself too seriously, I don't think it matters too much. Either way, depends on your point of view, I guess.
We'll see.
Third and final story of the day.
Yeah.
Apple is getting into banking.
They still make cars?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that'll be a couple of years down the track, I'm sure. So this is actually something I heard about 3 or 4 years ago, and I didn't realize it was still going ahead, which is really cool. So Apple was developing, it might have even been longer than that, because Apple was developing a joint credit card with Goldman Sachs. And what they're launching now is a joint effort with Goldman Sachs as well. So I wonder if that was just their initial idea or if this is a continuation of that. So they have a new 4.15 APY bank account, which is a savings account. And so 4.15%.
Which is really high.
Yeah, it's very good. For Australia, it's about what a fair few savings accounts are offering at the moment. For the US, it's apparently 3 times the national rate, so that's pretty good. And all you need to do to get that is to get an Apple credit card. So that's part of the reason, part of the incentive, I guess. So this was, obviously a joint effort with Goldman Sachs, who they did the deal with. And so in the US, you'll be able to set up the credit card and savings account. I don't think it's available here. And you'll be able to set it all up through the Apple Wallet, which is really cool. So the card works through MasterCard, and I believe the money is in a Goldman Sachs branded bank account. So that'll be whose sort of credit license, I guess, they're using. So I think this is an insanely good move from Apple because they're already so massive and it's so hard to deploy all that cash. They're currently sitting on 135 billion in cash, and their total asset value is 352 billion. So essentially on their balance sheet, they've got over a third of it sitting in cash, not much to do with it. Lend it out and make a bit on it. But I'm not 100% sure if they count as the lender or if Goldman Sachs counts as the lender and then they are just a pass-through service. And Goldman are the ones that are sourcing that liquidity and doing all of that banking in the background. Or even if there is an additional bank where it's going to. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there because especially in light of the Silicon Valley Bank collapsing and a few of those other third-tier banks, this will take away heaps of that competition in that banking sector because a lot of people have an iPhone, and if they can just do all of their banking on their iPhone, then that'll save a lot of time. As well as that, in the US, I think it's not as advanced as Australia with all their banking, so they have heaps of. It's very difficult to transfer money and do things like that.
Cash there.
That's right, and it's they use checks and cash a lot. And transferring from your bank, it's almost like you have to log in, you have to transfer. It takes multiple days, or sometimes you can't even transfer. You got to use Venmo and Cash App and stuff like that. So yeah,
Is it possible that, and this is just pure speculation of someone who, again, really doesn't really know what they're talking about, but is it possible that the agreement could have been something along the lines of Apple basically enables it from a tech perspective, as you said, so they facilitate the actual transaction to happen or the process to happen, the product, and then as you say, it all goes through Goldman Sachs, and then is it possible that on the back end of that, then they create a product that then can be like the debt can then be basically like created as a product and then given to Apple or bought by Apple or whatever you want to call that, and so
Exactly.
there's almost like a few transactions happening.
Yeah, so that would be securitization. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like I
that's
wonder
quite
if that's possible. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Yeah, they could package it all up into a bond.
Yeah, and the agreement is basically like, we'll help you facilitate all of these new credit facilities through your bank account, but you have to guarantee that we get access. We're the only exclusive access to that bond product that you're creating or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be very interesting. Yeah. They're also adding a buy now, pay later solution. So that'll crush the entire industry, I think, of startups already doing this.
Yeah.
So in Australia, we've got Zip Money, we've got Afterpay, we've got what else is there? There's Klarna.
Yeah.
In the US, there's a few different solutions as well. So I think that whole industry, if Apple can write some code to quickly implement that, you've just lost all of those startups to Apple, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if they would roll up anything and just take their teams and rebrand or something.
Exactly. Pivot.
Interesting.
Yeah, or maybe they'll continue to be successful. I don't know. But yeah, competing with Apple is definitely rough.
Yeah, no idea. Are you struggling to get your name out there? Do you want to attract more customers? Maybe just increase your revenue? Well, look no further than Newnique. They're an all-in-one marketing agency, and they'll help take your business to the next level. They believe in marketing that should be both effective and enjoyable, and I tend to agree. So they offer a range of services such as web design, branding, social media management, and lead generation. The team of experts, they'll work with you to develop a tailored marketing strategy that fits the unique needs of your business. And they don't just stop at making you look good, but they're specialized in setting up lead generating machines. Their top secret methods will help you capture and convert your leads, leading to increased sales and revenue for your unique business. So search NEW NIQ UE on Google to learn more and schedule a free marketing consultation via their website. So let Newnique take your business to the next level.
Index is a tech-focused recruitment platform passionate about scaling your engineering team, maintaining 95% placement success. To date, they've vetted over 8,000 developers, boasting on average more than 7 years experience across their recruits. Index supplies talent to industry-leading clients such as Omio, a German unicorn that's raised almost 500 million USD, Perforce, a US-based leading DevOps solutions provider with over 300 million USD in annual revenue, and many others, some of which are backed by firms such as Goldman Sachs and Y Combinator. So if you're struggling to find the right talent, concerned about high employee costs and staff turnover, Index has the solution for you. Through comprehensive assessments, in-depth interviews, and a robust vetting process, Index can provide your business with the very best international tech talent in less than 7 business days. For contracts greater than 6 months, Index is offering a 10% discount to HQLA fans the next time you hire using their platform. I am going to be talking about something which is, you might have heard of it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you would have yet. It's probably the biggest thing to happen in artificial intelligence since OpenAI launched ChatGPT 3.
I probably haven't heard about it.
Okay, so it's this thing called AutoGPT, right?
Never heard of it.
You haven't? Okay, this is going to be very interesting. So it's all the rage at the moment. It's come out about 2 weeks ago. Which by the time you're listening to this, about a month ago, I would say. Yeah, so it's AutoGPT, and it's really hard to understand the scale at which this is moving ahead because of how rapid and mind-blowing the very next thing and the next thing and the next thing is in artificial intelligence.
Yep.
It feels like there's something mind-blowing every week, but this is genuinely very incredible. So the best way that I've heard it described is it's basically, there's a series of projects which are all sort of AutoGPTs. But it's primarily coming from one project called AutoGPT, and so basically it's not a company. It's it's a GitHub project, and it's open for download by anyone. So if you're a developer, you can download the repository, set it up, and then use it to automate tasks. So this there's also one called Baby AGI, which stands for Artificial General Intelligence. So basically, it's something that can be used as, what that means is it's something that can be used as an alternative to a human capability. And then you'll have your own general intelligence to perform tasks autonomously. So what you do is you give it a mission and you give it 5 core goals, and AutoGPT will API into ChatGPT 4, and it'll carry out tasks and create its own prompts in order to carry out those tasks. And so it'll build its own system to get the job done. So one of the first uses that I saw of this was a developer asking AutoGPT to create a website in React. And then before, what you would have done is you would have asked ChatGPT to write you the code to create the website. You would have described it carefully, telling it about buttons, colors, layouts, and asked it to tweak the code when parts of it didn't work. And if you're not a very experienced developer, you might have set up the IDE or the interface wrong, where you input the code and you might have the wrong class or something in the code, or there's something in settings which hasn't worked, and you would have had to try to figure out the problems and the issues, and you would have probably broken the project because you didn't know what you were doing. With AutoGPT, this is solved. Even for experienced developers, this will save a whole lot of time. So the problem's solved because it'll build it in real time in front of you based on those prompts. So it's really cool because you tell it you want to build that website, and then it will build it while you're watching it happen, as opposed to tell me how to build this, I'll copy this in, I'll change this, I want this tweaked. Instead of saying all of those things, you just say, I want the website to be blue and have these buttons and do this, and it'll come up with tasks. And so it basically provides these 3 main contextual points that it works off. So what it does is it does reasoning, plan, and criticism. So GPT is basically showing what it's doing as you're looking at it. AutoGPT is. And it'll show the reasoning behind it, the plan for the next step, and then what it's going to do next and where it's worked. Then using criticism, it's able to generate new reasoning, make a new plan, and input new prompts based off this, which will then criticize again and generate the next prompt. So the whole feedback loop it's very quick, and it provides it works by itself without much human intervention, which is really cool. So basically, there's this whole area called prompt engineering, which has sort of come up, which is really interesting.
It's also a bit related to what I was going to say.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I'm aware of this.
Yeah, so prompt engineering is basically, instead of taking 4 people or 10 people to do Microsoft Excel, what we'd be doing is, and this seems to be a new job that was coming up very rapidly, you could take one person and they could tell you, do this data entry, and an AI system would automatically do all of that data entry. So now, instead of those 4 people, you have this one person that is prompt engineering in order to get there. But what if AutoGPT is able to generate its own prompts? So it's almost like we've cut out that job that we almost needed.
Yep.
So it's really interesting because now you could have one person doing AutoGPT, and that could cut out 4 prompt engineers who could cut out 4 people inputting data manually.
Yep.
So it's almost like we're in the second and third order before we've even got to the first order.
Which is crazy because people are still just getting their head around ChatGPT. And you're right. At this point, it feels as though you really still have to think about the substance of what you want it to do, and then it'll bring complexion to it. It'll add stuff around it. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but it still requires a fair bit of critical thinking by the person using it. You're right. And so at this point, it was like, okay, we need some smart person who can think about the content of what needs to be in this, piece of material, some writing, or let's write a website or whatever it is. And then you're right. Now you're like, oh, actually, we just need one person who just broadly knows what they want to do, put it into AutoGPT. It creates the subset of tasks that are required to make it happen. You're right. And then you don't need anyone who's a specialist anymore, because previously you did. Like, I still wouldn't have known how to really make a website using ChatGPT, but maybe I can using AutoGPT.
Exactly. Well, what do you think is and I might not have emphasized it enough, what do you think is the main issue with the current system that I've just shown there? So what would
Using
you guess?
AutoGPT, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That whole.
AutoGPT.
Well, I suppose it can make decisions that are in what you would define as incorrect. So it would use rationale that you think is not right, and so it would come up with decisions that you don't think are right.
That could be an issue, and it's not one that I had in mind. But
What's your one that you have in mind?
the main issue, and I might not have emphasized it enough, at the moment it's a GitHub project.
Yeah.
And so you have to copy all of the repositories. You have to have your own. You have to have Python, and you have to have a system installed.
Yeah, the average person cannot access it. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not very accessible. That's the issue, and so no user interface, no user experience, not very accessible.
What's going on? Why has no one done that?
This is a problem that's been solved, but it's already been solved. So it's been 2 weeks since they launched this, and there's already something out called Agent GPT, which uses AutoGPT, which uses OpenAI's ChatGPT. Very interesting. And so basically, this is a user interface that someone's built on top of it. So I was having a play around with this.
Cool.
The problem, it was limited because I would have to sign up for, and I still will sign up for GPT-4, then use the API and put that into Agent GPT. Then it'll work seamlessly.
So it still can't work with ChatGPT 3?
Well, I think ChatGPT 3 doesn't have, and I might be wrong, but it doesn't have API attached to it.
It essentially can't connect to it.
That's right. But GPT-4, they launched APIs in February or March or something. And so that was the big thing when they launched the API. I think it only came out in March, so I think that they launched that in March. So yeah, some of the best applications though that I've seen for AutoGPT so far, or some of the best applications that you could apply. So have you heard of, and we're getting nitty gritty with the GPT acronyms. I think people need to start naming things differently. But have you heard of HustleGPT?
No.
Okay, so this is a guy. It's not actually a service or anything. This is just a guy that was a hustler on ChatGPT. So he's this guy named Jackson Greathouse, and he's on Twitter. And this was on the 16th of March. And he said he'd given, and he had a really viral tweet. So he said he's given GPT-4 a budget of $100 and told it to make as much money as possible. Then he'll act as the human liaison. He'll do anything that GPT-4 tells him to do, no manual labor and nothing illegal.
Wait, is this using AutoGPT?
This is using ChatGPT. So this is a month ago.
Just using ChatGPT.
This is before AutoGPT had come out.
Jeez.
He said he'll do no manual labor and nothing illegal, but he'll be the human part, and he'll do the parts that GPT-4 can't do. And so basically what happened was GPT-4 came up with a plan, and the plan was to buy a domain for $10, start hosting for $5, so $15 spent so far. The next part of the plan was to use the remaining $85 to set up an affiliate website and design and create content for the site. So he chose the niche of an eco-friendly product. He signed up for affiliate programs with higher commission rates. So like Amazon Associates, and then there were two other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then he leveraged social media and SEO to drive traffic. Mm-hmm. And so GPT-4 came up with
Could I just make one point there?
Yeah.
That phrase in and of itself is very difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I agree.
He just leveraged, what did you say?
He leveraged SEO and
yes,
social media, but that's the thing. That's the high level view.
Yeah.
But then it said this is the high level plan of what he's going to do, and so then it dives deeper as he goes on, and so it's being the AI component, and he's being the human liaison of doing those parts.
Yep.
So then GPT-4 came up with a domain name. It helped with prompts to generate images and logos for the site using DALL-E and Midjourney.
Yep.
And then they ended up with this site called Green Gadget Guru. And so GPT-4 chose this split of advertising spend and drove traffic to the site. He's basically taken on invested capital. And so he's valued the company at $25,000, given that he took on $500 for 2% of the company. After day one, he had $1,300 in cash, partially from Discord. And then after 8 days, he'd generated interest into investing, and so then he'd built up this cash into this business. And then he made $130 in revenue after 8 days of running this site. And so basically, if you think about that, he's generated 130% ROI on his spend, basically. And if that was at a different scale, that would be pretty cool. He only did one. He did like one article.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's one article.
Yeah, there's only one article,
Yeah.
and he's generated that from that one article. And I think it's more about showing that it's a viable option, as opposed to actually doing it. I think
this is
probably
definitely just a
wasn't
proof of concept, because like that button, the read latest articles button doesn't work, categories doesn't work, about doesn't work, nothing works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then he's ended up with this article that made $130. And so since he's done that, he's leveraged a Discord community with 3,000 members. And so obviously community building like that can be very valuable as well. Got a viral tweet out of it. And here's what's cool about AutoGPT and where that would come in. So instead of saying that whole "I'll be a human liaison" part, you would just be able to, in this case, give it the money to enact what you want it to do.
What do you mean, give it the money?
And it would automatically be able to process
Like
the setting
give it
up.
access to your bank account details or something.
It's something which can connect with whatever you're doing. So if you made a PayPal, for example, in order to access and said like access this PayPal and set up the business like this, I think you would do it in a way that's more separated from your actual stuff.
Okay,
but you could say
yes.
you're authorized
PayPal
to make an account.
It has $100 in it. Here's the access details. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah.
For example, it goes and makes a GoDaddy account, registers a domain for you, goes and makes a Facebook ads account, starts running ads for you, then starts writing HTML for your website and puts it on, online and everything, and starts hosting it. It could theoretically be doing all of that for you without having to need that sort of human liaison part. So you could almost make it side hustle for you, and you're sort of sitting back and occasionally prompting the next task. But even at that stage, it's coming up with this list of tasks.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That is cool. That's very cool. I don't get it practically fully yet. I need to see a demo video. I don't understand, how does it go on to GoDaddy and create an account? How does GoDaddy let what it should know is a bot use the it has how's it going to get through captures, for example? Don't they stop bots from doing stuff? I think I'm not criticizing what you're saying. I think there's some things that I don't fully understand in practicality, and maybe that's because they haven't been sorted out yet. But theoretically, it's really cool.
If you think about GPT, you can show it a picture of. There's this really cool picture of all these strings on balloons getting cut, and they're flying. The balloons are all flying away, and you can ask it why that's bad, and then GPT-4 will actually explain. It'll interpret the picture and explain why it's bad that the balloons are flying away, and how obviously someone's cut the rope and the balloons have flown away, and so the fact that it's able to interpret that, I feel like it's able to interpret which of the squares.
No, I agree. It knows what has a bridge in it or what has a bus in it. But my understanding, and again, Reg, I'm talking from someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, but surely we all don't know what we're talking about at this point. Capture, my understanding, the way the capture functions is that it tracks the movement and the way that the person or the bot is interacting with the website, not necessarily what it clicks on. That's a secondary measure. The primary measure is how it uses the website. And again, this is moving into a field where I don't understand, but we're either saying capture is totally redundant here, or we're saying that it really can't do a lot of these things because capture is going to block it. But it's interesting to see. I don't know. And
how many services have capture though?
A lot.
I don't know. I feel like I've used a lot of things that don't have it.
The newer stuff. I feel like a lot of the newer Web3 AI platforms don't, but anything incumbent that's big that has a board of directors, which is a lot of the bigger platforms that you might need to use, I feel like they have captures. But I don't know. We'll see. I just would love to see it in reality. I feel like we talk about so much of this stuff conceptually that, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. But show me a video of someone actually someone's AutoGPT creating them a GoDaddy account. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm a pessimist. Clearly, I'm a pessimist. Sorry.
I mean, I disagree with you on the capture thing.
You think it just can defeat it?
Or I just haven't done one in a long time.
Oh, okay.
But that's the main.
Well, I signed up for something today and it had a capture on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. It's very, very fresh in the mind.
Yeah.
I agree with the concept that it's hard to see how it would work. You know.
Yes.
So yeah, I asked it to research for the podcast.
Yeah.
And basically, it set up 3 tasks for itself, which included searching the internet for different AutoGPT models, which are available, summarizing the key features, providing recommendations.
You did that using Agent GPT?
Yeah, I used that using Agent GPT because I haven't set up AutoGPT myself.
But wait, how did it work if you don't have ChatGPT 4?
So it works up to a certain point.
Oh.
And then it says this is a demo, and we've used our demo purpose for the API.
Okay.
But what it did, it created those 3 tasks. So it'll create tasks as a to-do list in order to achieve your main goal. And so, yeah, it basically did all those 3 things. It searched, it wanted to summarize the key features of the research, and it wanted to provide recommendations. But as it wrote the first prompt and completed the first task, it came up with a 4th task and then a 5th task. And then as it wrote the second one, it created a 6th task. And then it continually updated. And then what you can do is you can, after it's created those tasks, and done all of that, you can ask it to be more concise or to rewrite something or to make it better, and it'll take what it's done in the past and then continue to kind of improve it, which is cool. And so I thought that was a really good example of kind of iterative prompts, because that made use of 6 or 7 prompts, whereas when you're doing a single prompt into GPT, it might not be as good as AutoGPT writing 6 prompts to get a better answer.
Yeah, which is very necessary with ChatGPT.
Because all you think about when you're doing ChatGPT is, how do I write a better prompt?
Yeah.
But you don't think about, how do I write iteratively 6 prompts to continually make the answer better? So I think that's really cool. It's almost like a little closed loop system, which is helping to improve your answers based on the previous answer, which is cool. So what about the future of these AI ideas, right? So how will it shape people's experiences, especially as customers of products? Well, we've actually gone from how to do this to do this for me. So we've gone from this model where we're typing in Google how to do this. Then we've gone to, how do I do this in ChatGPT? Now we've gone to do this task on my behalf, which is really cool. So my first example that I'm going to bring up in terms of the future of AI ideas, and this is a really cool one. I heard this on the podcast Marketing Against the Grain, which is a pretty cool podcast. So basically, previously, well, I'll go through the idea that they did later, but previously we had a huge cost to develop a website, right? So let's say you go to Fiverr or you go to a web dev shop, right? And you might pay someone $1,000 or $3,000 to build your website from scratch. Or you might pay $200 or $500 to make a WordPress or a Wix or a Squarespace. Someone designs it all, lays it out, creates inquiry forms, does all your email and stuff like that. Or you spend a lot of time doing it yourself. You might spend 20 hours building your website to make it really good. At this point now, the marginal cost of building a website is so low that it only takes setting up the goal of build this and add it to my website in order to build a new page or build a new whole website, right? So what's the benefit there? So you could build, here's a really good idea. You could build a custom landing page for every customer that comes to your site that looks exactly how that customer wants it to look based on what their preferences are or what your tracking has said about them. And then you could make the front page, you could make it prompt-based. So it would almost be like a concierge service asking which service they require, helping you out in that concierge style. And you could create 1,000 different versions of your website, which gives each different user experience based on the specific user. So that would be a really cool idea. But here's something that's taking that a step further and making it iterative. So, and this is something that I think people are only sort of just starting to think about in the AI area. So what if you could iterate the back end of the website as the user is navigating through the site? So instead of having stored data on this massive server and everything like that, as the technology actually naturally speeds up over time and gets much better, imagine having an AI-based website where you wanted the service to be entirely personal to that customer, and every time they click on a new page, AI builds the next page as a suggestion based on which pathway the user wants to explore.
Yeah.
And as they continue to explore throughout, say, a search engine, for example, it would continue to refine results based on this whole matrix of decisions that they're making, and it could fully create a new web page.
Or even the way they're interacting with it, how long they spend on particular sections, how much of certain videos they watch, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine a search engine, for example, which you start out looking for plumbers, and then you click through and you're on this video streaming service, and then you're on, the next thing, and then just because you've decided to take all these different pathways through this search engine, which is generating the next page for you, which would be really cool.
Imagine if that's what the internet became.
Yeah, exactly.
Like everybody had their if someone, you're right. Like imagine if someone created a search engine which, instead of just showing you, as you're saying, instead of showing you people's content, and instead of everybody creating this method of going through their website, and you're still going to a standard like a standard search engine, and then you're going into that space, literally like going through the internet was just little pockets of different people's website information, and it was based on what you're interested in, what you liked. Oh, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's great. And so here's something that's going to blow your mind even further. So I'll, in terms of generating content, this could be the next thing. So there's something around the future of AI which I think could be something which happens, and I think it would be really cool. So there's this YouTube channel I've been following for years. It's called Corridor Digital, and they made this video called Anime Rock Paper Scissors, right? And so it was about 2 months ago, and what they did was they filmed them like real selves against a green screen. So they're basically this studio that's really good at visual effects and things like that. And so they're always kind of on the cutting edge of visual effects. And so I always watch their methods for creating certain things.
Yes.
And so
that's
one
why
thing that's
your videos are on the cutting edge of visual effects.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I did just launch
which might
a
be
new
linked
film
in the show notes here.
Yeah, I'll link that down below. But basically they used AI so they filmed themselves, and then they used AI to turn themselves into anime characters, which was really cool. So they had this full system that they've kind of developed to regenerate themselves as those anime characters, and then they've created a full anime episode. They've created a 7-minute video, which is full of all these graphic effects, all generated by AI, which is really cool. So typically you would need a whole studio. You would have people drawing, and then you'd have people animating.
Crazy.
And then you'd have all the voice actors and all that kind of thing. In this case, they were filmed, and then it all overlaid, and it all looked really good, right? So another great AI, this is a different idea entirely, and I'll tie them both together. So there's this thing that's been going around. It's an AI headshot generator. So basically, you input a few random pictures of yourself, you pay this fee, and the AI will generate a bunch of professional headshots for your LinkedIn profile picture. So you might not have a professional photo. You might be going to a job interview or something like that, and you want to have some professional headshots. So you can create all these different ideas. You can make it generate 150 different AI versions of yourself using a few photos of yourself. So let me know if you can see where I'm going with this. But imagine combining those ideas with generative content and something like Midjourney and DALL-E 2 can do. So the common problem you have on Netflix, right, is you don't know what you want to start watching. Sometimes you don't know if you should rewatch something or if you should try a new show. So imagine taking your own image and writing a prompt for a show.
I could just say something there. I had that experience last night.
Yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah.
I think I accidentally watched the Taylor Swift documentary for a second time.
For the second time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, accidentally. I got to the very end and was like, "Oh, I have heard her talk about this stuff."
So you didn't know you'd seen it?
No, the whole time I was just erring on the edge of like, maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But yeah, turns out
Yeah.
I had.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Classic. Yeah. So imagine taking your own image and you write a prompt for a show. Then the whole show is generated as you start watching the first episode. Then the second episode is being written, produced, edited, and modified by the AI. And then imagine having the computing power on your phone someday, which I'm sure as technology advances will happen. You could start watching a show entirely made up, and then the following minutes of the show, just like YouTube buffering, for example, are
It's
being
created.
created as you're watching it. And then
How
the
does it know
following,
what you want?
well, imagine it being very text based or recommendation based. It takes, say, your entire Netflix catalog and looks at what you've watched,
Oh, okay.
or say if you just tell it, if you tell it your favorite movies, or um, you know, you say you just say you want an Italian gangster movie or something like that, in the style of, some director.
I think that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you said, you want, I mean, I've used the example before, but Star Wars in the style of Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
It could, for example, generate that show
Yeah.
as you're watching it.
I could imagine. So that's right. I could imagine at the start, you like turn on the voice control and you're like, I want to watch a movie XYZ. Like, I want these characteristics of a movie. The movie starts playing. The only way I can see it working, unless it's got like Neuralink, which it would be that's crazy, is you pause it and then you go, this is too slow, or this is too graphic, or this isn't funny enough, and then it like adapts it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting, but imagine
Yeah, it's really interesting.
that generative content as you're watching. I mean, that could be really cool.
Yeah, but I
And
don't get
so-
the generative as you watch concept, unless it's like, because how does it know how to adapt it?
Well, if you create a prompt at the front of the show before you're watching the show, if there's a prompt there, it hasn't made that show before based on that prompt.
Yeah.
So it's generating a show entirely new based on that. And then, if you want to watch it straight away, then the idea is that the technology is good enough to generate while you're watching. So that's kind of the idea there. So that's kind of why it's generative, I guess. It's similar to Midjourney and DALL-E, how they're generative as you prompt them, And so even taking that further, I've kind of taken each concept and pushed it out to its maximum sort of theoretical limit,
It's very dystopian.
I mean, hopefully not dystopian in a depressing way.
Well,
but
I think we should talk about that in a minute, but keep going.
Okay, all right. So it's going to get worse. So the future of startups, that's what I want to talk about next, right?
God.
So at the moment, someone comes up with an idea, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then let's say they have a better way to do insurance brokerage, right? And so they design this sleek service that looks really cool. It shops for the best insurer. Now imagine instead of that, you just have a nice user interface that you can type anything into and say, switch my insurance to a cheaper one, and make sure it includes home property, car insurance, and I have these needs, and I do this many kilometers, and I have a house in this suburb, right? Imagine an AutoGPT service which is concierge and exists with a good user interface. Let's say it already has access to payments and access to your accounts and could do this for you. Imagine it automatically switches from your old insurer to your new insurer for you by making all the calls and doing all the emailing and doing all the administrative stuff there. Then the whole purpose of the sleeker, easier, better insurance brokerage is completely wiped out, right?
Totally. You don't need those agents anymore.
Exactly. So this is almost working as a personal assistant, and anything you sort of think of, you just type that in and it starts to happen, So
what if the advice that it gives you is wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a can of worms.
The other thing I think about is, what if it can go as far as looking at the criteria and all of the different super. What are we talking about? Insurance,
Mm.
and choosing those with the characteristics that best fit what you want. What if it could just create its own insurance fund based on going and contacting a bunch of people who are looking to invest in some, I don't know, invest in some like low risk debt? Go find a bunch of people, investors, and then also go and find a whole bunch of people who want insurance and just make insurance companies irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. And so the idea is that it could sort of take any of those startup ideas for any incumbent or new companies
Yeah.
and basically make them automated instead.
Yeah. It's
And
removing the
so,
low hanging fruit stuff for sure.
mm,
Well, the only thing I have so many thoughts here. So the thing that's stopping it from doing the insurance thing is the certification, like, or whatever you would call that stuff, as you know, like you can't operate as an insurance fund unless you have you meet certain criteria and you have certain checks done and certain government bodies or whatever approve you. That's probably the same with a broker, right? Broker would have a brokerage license. If you're operating online, effectively doing that without a license, it's probably not legal, right?
well, yeah, but that's that's an example of an industry which could be disrupted by this. But if you could take any other startup idea,
Yeah,
and then disrupt that idea,
yeah, I
by
agree.
creating something generatively.
I agree.
So,
And to that point, the point that I'm making is the only thing that's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it seems to me that at some point, potentially every industry could be disrupted and everything could be AI, which is this weird concept that I don't really understand. We're going to get, I don't know, but let's leave that because it's a
no,
big
very
concept,
interesting though.
right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
the only thing that is securing jobs is them being certified by the industry and the process and the system that we currently have. Do you know what I mean? Like,
That's right. Yeah.
an accountant or something. Like, let's, if a public company has to get their records like checked every year, and the only reason AI can't do that is because it doesn't have the certification to be able to sign off on it. So that for that reason, the accountants get to keep their jobs. Do you know what I mean? Whereas all these other jobs that don't have this certification, like professional bodies, like as you say, like there's not really anything stopping them from being overcome by AI, which I don't know. This whole thing's very strange. Like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. What, like, you're getting rid of it? Like, what have we done here? We've gotten rid of startups. We've gotten rid of the whole entertainment industry, including video and audio. What is this? Like, I get the concept where like people like, and people say, oh well, what happens to all the jobs? But like, what does happen to all the jobs? Because
well, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. And so this almost becomes that situation where you go, oh well, is universal basic income required? And then you think, okay, let's say you pay everyone gets paid $50,000 who loses their job, right? But does it get to that point where, okay, all these people are making $50,000, so is that $50,000 worth nothing, and like that's the base rate? Like, is 50,000 worth zero once everyone has 50,000? I don't know. Like, or is it actually still useful?
Now you're asking very hard macroeconomic questions.
And so then the question is, does everyone need to own a piece of the AI? And then as a shareholder in the AI, you capture the value based on the work that you would have been doing, but instead of that, you're an owner now. Which in that sense means that you would have to nationalize AI companies.
But what are you saying? What's the share based on? Everyone gets the same share?
Well, yeah. I mean,
is it effectively zero then, relatively?
Well, is it or isn't it? So that's the question. I don't know. So,
well, it's just this weird thing where it's like, if we all get the same share in this AI thing that runs the whole world, and we all get then paid the same amount as soon as it's used or whatever, but we're all using it, like it just doesn't make any sense in my head. It's just really crazy.
Yeah.
I think the end here is that, like, what we're going for here, or like, I don't know, what we're optimizing for efficiency here, and maybe that is not the meaning of life. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe we're optimizing for the wrong thing here, which is no work and efficiency. And do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's all very strange.
But the counter argument there is that everything that's ever come out as a new technology has been people have been scared of, and people haven't wanted to embrace.
Is this different though?
The car and the automobile, of the horse.
I wouldn't have made this statement when we were talking about crypto, and I wouldn't have made this statement when we were talking about NFTs. I wouldn't have made this statement when we were talking about 3D printing. But I will make this statement when we're talking about AI, and you're telling me all of these things.
Yeah. Well, if you think about 3D printing, the whole concept is that it replaces the industry of construction. And if you think about crypto, the whole concept is that it replaces the concept of banking and the need for bankers and lawyers and accountants and things like that, right? And so if you disrupt, well, obviously you're not as afraid.
They just create new tools that still require expertise to use.
That depends on if you think that it can get good enough in order to replace those jobs. So if you truly, say, for example, someone who really, really believes in crypto, really also believes that banking can be disrupted, right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And that there can be no banks and no one needs to actually use those skills because they can transfer all their money instantly across blockchains, right? And then if you have someone who really believes in 3D printing, then all of the construction workers will get laid off. And then what do they do with their skills, So then it's almost like, are they supposed to own a piece of a 3D printing company? Do they get a universal basic income? All that stuff. And so it's all just new technologies, I think. So being more scared or less scared of a technology is a really interesting concept. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, but
I'm more scared of it.
When people got, when the horse got taken away and the automobile was brought in, there were all these, stable, jobs that were all gone. When the projectionist was replaced by an automatic projector at the film, cinema, people lost their jobs there. And so there's constant moving forward of, technology. And if you look at now versus 100 years ago, there's a few things that you can say definitively. Life's gotten a lot better and technology's gotten a lot better. So it's almost like the new technology that comes out, are you going to stand in the way of that? And how are you going to stand in the way of that? Because people are going to build it anyway. Like there's always going to be someone building the next AI thing. So if you try and slow it down, are you actually helping? Or
yes, I absolutely do think you are helping. I think the only way is to have a board of critics who are creating a tension between people who are not thinking about the potential, I mean, not even long-term, short-term ramifications of certain decisions. I don't know. I just think it's pretty crazy.
I just wonder how it's not the same as...
Well, you're removing the tools. So like if you, like the horse to the car thing, you still need a thing to get somewhere. It's like saying, I've created, like you can now teleport, right? And so now we don't need a tool. We've just gotten rid of the tool completely.
Well, and so you've solved the transportation problem.
Yeah, and that's a lot of freaking jobs.
Yeah, and so what's the problem? Like you can get places faster.
Yeah.
So you've massively improved people's quality of life. They don't have to commute anymore.
What are all
they
those
can teleport to work.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So like I think that's a very restrictive way of looking at it, saying like, oh, we've solved transport, but let's not put it in place. That's a bad idea.
I just don't think it's I just think there's a lot of pros and cons.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm just bringing up a lot of the cons. I'm not saying I guess I'm just not saying that everything is just airy fairy.
Yeah. I'm just saying, just don't be negative.
Well, I'm gonna be pragmatic.
No, it's true. I mean, and it's all very valid concerns. Like I can see why it'd be a massive concern, because it's like it's not just some jobs. It's like every white collar worker's job, for example, is gone for now. And then once it's implemented into the right robotic and stuff like that, every blue collar job is now gone as well. So it's very interesting.
I'd like to hear people's thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no,
Who do you agree with? My pessimistic view or Isaac's very progressive view?
I don't think it's particularly the right view to say let's all give up all the jobs and everything, because I haven't come up with a solution, for example. I agree that it's right to take it with a grain of salt when it comes out with this new technology stuff, but also everything that we've done so far has kind of led us to a point that's still working. So,
you're right.
We're still doing okay as a society. So I don't know.
Okay, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. So my conclusion is that you still need Python and an IDE to run this properly at the moment, and you still need to import the GitHub repository. There's plenty of how-tos out there, but you need a subscription to OpenAI's ChatGPT-4. So personally, what I want to do is try out this Hustle challenge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a go with the AutoGPT. But yeah, I think we'll throw it to a future episode, and we'll see how we go. So
what
I'll try
are you
and
going to
set
give
it
yourself
up.
a timeline? What number? I feel like you can't really make a good goal unless you really put a time on it. What episode?
I don't know how long it's going to approve for. We'll check back in episode 35.
Oh, all right, 35.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll try and make the next 5 in 5
and
weeks.
If you're not here by episode 35, it means it's been really successful.
Yeah, obviously.
And you're doing something else.
Yeah. No longer podcasting, just fishing.
You found a much better podcast host who you just
yeah.
pay, who's actually just AI generated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you struggling to get your name out there? Do you want to attract more customers? Maybe just increase your revenue? Well, look no further than Newnique. They're an all-in-one marketing agency, and they'll help take your business to the next level. They believe in marketing that should be both effective and enjoyable, and I tend to agree. So they offer a range of services such as web design, branding, social media management, and lead generation. The team of experts, they'll work with you to develop a tailored marketing strategy that fits the unique needs of your business. And they don't just stop at making you look good, but they're specialized in setting up lead generating machines. Their top secret methods will help you capture and convert your leads, leading to increased sales and revenue for your unique business. So search NEW NIQ UE on Google to learn more and schedule a free marketing consultation via their website. So let Newnique take your business to the next level.
Index is a tech-focused recruitment platform passionate about scaling your engineering team, maintaining 95% placement success. To date, they've vetted over 8,000 developers, boasting on average more than 7 years experience across their recruits. Index supplies talent to industry-leading clients such as Omeo, a German unicorn that's raised almost 500 million USD, Perforce, a US-based leading DevOps solutions provider with over 300 million USD in annual revenue, and many others, some of which are backed by firms such as Goldman Sachs and Y Combinator. So if you're struggling to find the right talent, concerned about high employee costs and staff turnover, Index has the solution for you. Through comprehensive assessments, in-depth interviews, and a robust vetting process, Index can provide your business with the very best international tech talent in less than 7 business days. For contracts greater than 6 months, Index is offering a 10% discount to HQLA fans the next time you hire using their platform.
Last episode, we were talking about StockX and Nike. There was a dispute around the use of their intellectual property, which is interesting because we're talking about intellectual property in a copyright sense today, not trademarks. And so I think this is the reason why Nike was up in arms about it. This is just my presumption. I don't have any backing for this, but it just kind of makes sense in my head. The reason is because Nike have a project that appears very similar to the StockX project. It's not. The StockX project is all secondary market stuff, is my understanding, but the appearance of it makes them look really similar. And the clientele would be basically the same. And so this is an Air Force One collection. So Air Force Ones are obviously Nike's shoe. If you haven't seen them, or they call them sneakers. And they're arguably one of their most famous ranges. It's been around for a long time. And they're generally quite expensive. They're sort of a $200 shoe versus what you can get as maybe a $60 to $100 shoe. And so this is interesting. So this is a project that they had. There was 10 designs. So you can see 10 designs there. I don't know if there's a particular color that you would purchase. I saw one there which is white with like tan or brown like swoosh, or maybe you might even call it gold. And I thought that looked really cool. I would potentially purchase that. So the price range, they've already dropped in the primary market. The secondary market, you can pick them up on OpenSea from anywhere from $500 to $8,500 USD. And so this is interesting. So this is a collaboration. You'll see it on the website there in the branding. It's a collaboration between Nike and a company called RTF KT. And so this is a company that was birthed during COVID, sort of birthed during the metaverse era, which I think will come back at some point, but when it was a lot of hype around the metaverse. And so they were creating a lot of the digital articles that people were using. When I say articles, I mean like digital things. So it could be a lot of it was shoes, but a lot of other products as well online. So they use it's kind of cool. They seem to use like gaming engines and 3D modeling to be able to create a lot of these content. And so they have partnered with Nike in this situation, and they've created these NFT pairs that I was talking about. That Dolce Gabbana, for example, or Dolce Gabbana was another example of what they're doing here, where you can purchase an NFT, and that NFT is linked to a physical item. And so this is interesting. There's a new concept here that we've never talked about called forging. And it's a term, obviously, a lot of this industry or a lot of this world where it's all very new, people are just coming up with terms. So this one, it is the point or the period in which someone can take their NFT and convert it into the physical,
into the real thing. That's what I was guessing in my head. I was like,
so that's what forging is.
Great.
You can kind of, it feels like
it's like minting.
Definitely feels like a gaming term. Yeah, it's kind of like the second mint, the mint of the real thing.
Yeah.
That's right. And so an interesting technical point here is, can you remember two ERC token codes?
721 and 20.
ERC20. Oh, ERC2. Yes.
ERC. You asked me for two. I don't know. Yeah.
ERC21, ERC20. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So there's a third one, which is like a hybrid, which is the ERC1155. And so basically what happens is, so the question here is this. Let's say you go onto OpenSea and there is a shoe there, the picture of a shoe, 3D image of the shoe, which is the NFT, and you don't know if the item has been forged or not.
Yeah.
Because, well, how do you know?
Yeah.
I guess is the question.
It's almost
so the
like
answer
it has
to that
burned in order to.
Well, that's what happened. That's exactly what happens. So when you go to during the forging process, what it encompasses is you burning the 1155 token, and then you're given the 721 token. So then if you're going on OpenSea or anything like that, if you see a 721 token, that means it's already been forged and that there's potentially no, you can't go to Nike and try and get your shoes because someone's already done.
Can I just say something really interesting here? So this is something I think about weekly, and it's really interesting that they're doing it in real life, which is really cool. So this is something that I was at this event and I talked to this guy who works at Rolex, and so he's a salesman at Rolex, and he was telling me, because basically my whole thing was, what if you could split shares of a Rolex into NFTs, and then you could own a piece of a Rolex, right? And so he was saying how you would probably get blacklisted from their special list. They've got a special exclusive list. You have to be on the list for 5 years, then you can finally get a Rolex, all that kind of thing, right? So they got through all these hoops to jump through, and my whole thing was just buy a bunch of them and then put them, like auction them off. But then I was thinking, what happens when you buy 100% of the tokens? It's almost like you're entitled to, you fully own the Rolex, so you're entitled to get it out of the safe and have it for yourself. And so then it's like, imagine just you get it out of the safe, you have it for yourself, then you sell all the Rolex tokens, and they're not actually based on real value. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so how do people tell? And this is the way.
So this is
this is the way that they've done it in this situation. Yeah, that's
forging,
right. Yeah. So it is interesting. As I said, the forging process is happening currently. So you can go on OpenSea and buy, there's not a lot, but you can buy some unforged tokens, and you could then take them to the website and forge them and get the actual physical item. Nike have said that they'll be shipped in Q4 of this year. And they only dropped in the last month or so, just to gauge sort of timeline of that. The final point on the actual tech around it is, and it's kind of interesting because we have actually interacted with these before, NFCs. Do you remember what an NFC is? It's off-putting because we just talked about NFTs, but they're not necessarily that similar.
A non-fungible coin.
No, I knew you'd get thrown off by it. Near-field communication chip.
It's the little sticker that you can put on the back of a business card, and someone could tap that. And
remember we bought a bunch and they never came?
I do remember that. We bought a whole tape roll full of NFC tokens, and then we were gonna put them on business cards.
We were gonna do something, but they never came.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of forgot.
Yeah, and then yes, that's true. That's very interesting. I'm gonna follow that up. It was like 3 years ago, and I'm gonna follow it up.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been literally 2 years ago.
Probably stuck at customs. We probably never paid the tariff or something.
It's sitting there ready for us. Yeah, we probably didn't. So funny. Giving people a glimpse into what we do, what we get up to.
We do business.
I don't know. Well, clearly we don't. Okay, so each shoe has a NFC near-field communication chip in it. And then so you can there's some instructions online, obviously, on the Nike website. When it comes, you put it up close to your camera, which is where the interaction has to happen. And then it takes you to the website where you can link it to your MetaMask or whatever wallet you use, and you can verify it. And then basically the NFT then changes. One of the attributes of the NFT changes, and it becomes a linked NFT. And you can see when it's been unlinked. So you can unlink it, but it almost removes like a verification tick. Let's say, for example, you buy it, comes to your house, you verify it, it's now linked to your account. You then decide to sell it to me. So you unlink it, the shoes come in the mail or whatever, and then I link it to my wallet, right? It'll now never have that tick that verifies first owner. That attribute will never be available ever again. And so when you're going online and you're looking for like these NFTs again in the future, most of them are going to be forged because people will have the shoes at their house. But what you really want is a shoe that hasn't passed from owner to owner to owner to owner. So this attribute allows you to see whether it's still with the primary purchaser is basically what that is,
cool.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's sick.
It just helps, when you're looking at cars, it's the concept of like one owner vehicle sort of thing, one owner pair of shoes, one owner NFT.
100%.
It's verifying that attribute. So that's all I wanted to say there. I just thought it was like that. It just ticked in my head. Oh, that's probably why Nike are going after StockX in that situation. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about, which links to episode 3, which I do believe, I could be wrong, but I do believe it was us in my front yard talking about drinking rainbirds.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Very cool.
So this is, in that episode, you talked about marketing fails.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And it was very good. Do you remember any of the companies you talked about?
Yeah, so Pepsi had a campaign with Kendall Jenner, and she was kind of going up to these protesters and giving them Pepsi. And they were suddenly not interested in beating up the crowd because they got a Pepsi, which was kind of cited as very out of touch with how actual protests work.
What else did you talk about?
Interesting. No, I'm not sure.
We'll move along. Sure. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this one's interesting, and this one incorporates a car because we are still a car podcast, even though we don't talk about it a lot. So this is marketing wins.
Hey.
And so these are some of the most interesting recent marketing campaigns, and I think some of them are really, really interesting. Okay, so the first one is a collaboration, and it's with a company called Revere and Artec. So they're the two companies, Revere, Artec. Artec they're both based in London. Artec seem to be like a paint house, a paint shop that seems to specialize in plastic dips, style, spray products. You can come and customize the color of this, that, your wheels, whatever it is, which is cool. And the other one is Revere, which is basically a luxury prestige performance and modification house, but they're one of these companies that do it from the factory. So they'll get your car delivered straight to their workshop, and they'll put their custom made body kits or whatever you want to get on it, your exhaust, whatever. They'll put it straight on it. They stick their badge, next to the company badge, and then you get the car. And so it's for these people who is like, for example, like a Rolls-Royce Cullinan is not cool enough.
I was just thinking that. That's
and so they need a custom-built Rolls-Royce Cullinan with a custom body kit and stuff like that. So that's an example. They do it with a lot of only top end cars, Range Rovers, etc., etc. Okay, so as I said, they're based in London. They've been operating for about 40 years, Revere. And so here's an example right now. So it'll pop up on the screen. As I said, there's a Cullinan. This is just an example of what they do. It looks crazy aggressive.
It is crazy.
Do you like it? No, is it a yes or a no from you?
It's a yes from me. I've seen this sort of thing on Instagram. So I think I've seen this car on Instagram before.
Probably.
Which is it's always one of those crazy ones on the Explore page. And I will say, I was in Miami in like 2013 or 14 or something, and I saw the huge Rolls Royce, like the Phantom or whatever, like the just like the big sedan, huge sedan. And it was on. So it was in Miami, and it was all black, and it was out the front of this hotel, and then it was on bags, so it started to lower once it parked, and it had parked, and it had the grill was all like touching the side skirts, everything was touching the ground, and I thought, man, as if this Rolls Royce was not cool enough from the factory, or not expensive enough from the factory.
Or like exclusive enough or whatever.
Yeah, they've gone and they've changed it. And also, they've made it to be this supreme comfort vehicle, like the top of the top suspension, all that kind of stuff. And then you've gone and replaced bags that are probably hard as that just ruin the whole vibe.
No, I agree.
But it's very
I remember.
funny.
I agree. It is funny, and sometimes you're unsure because people are pretty good at making 3D renders of some of these cars, and sometimes it's really hard to tell whether they're real on Instagram or if they're fake. This is a real one. Obviously, it's made by an actual tuning shop. The other point to be made on the Cullinan specifically is I watch a guy named Doug DeMuro, which I love his videos, and whenever he gets, and he has driven every luxury car, he gets in these Cullinans and he's always astonished by how you just can't hear the outside world. Just to your point on them being luxurious. Like it's like you're in your own world. You can't hear people beeping. You can't hear people's cars. I'm like, wow, that'd be so cool.
I agree. Yeah.
So to modify that does seem very strange, but people have done it. There's an image of it on your screen there. So to the point of marketing, right? We haven't talked about marketing here yet. So if you scroll down a bit further, you'll see a Range Rover, and it has a bunch of spray paint on it, right? And so I actually found this image on a blog site, and I didn't know what it was initially, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, as most people did think initially, that it was just someone in some sort of relationship that's been an affair, and someone has just tagged the car with this. That's obviously that's your first thought. So this is, if people are unsure, this is a 2016 Range Rover Vogue. At that point, is what they were. I think they're just Range Rovers now. And this is the Revere Knightsbridge edition. So it had just come out, and so this is actually marketing by Revere, and they're using the product from Artec, as I mentioned. They have a product which is like a plastic dip, which just peels off, but it looks like real. Looks like real spray paint. And so they left it outside Harrods in London, very prominent location in London, obviously. And it absolutely went viral, as you'd expect. So this was in 2016.
Yeah.
And actually so much so that people assumed it was for a new TV show that was called Cheaters, which was actually coming out at that time.
Oh, there you go.
And Cheaters, which was the TV show in the UK, actually they actually took responsibility for it and said, yeah, this is promoting our new TV show. Like they just jumped on the back of it, right? As you would, like it's just someone marketing for you.
Yeah.
So then the Artec team with spray paint sprayed another Revere vehicle and took it out, and they put a hashtag and it said Revere, not revenge on it, just to like explicitly so that everybody knew where it was from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Any thoughts on that?
Yes. No, I've seen this before
Oh, you've seen the image?
I know about the image and that it's the marketing thing. Yeah, it is very cool. It's a really good idea because all these people, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, people are going to post this, and then heaps of people post it. They're like, this is hilarious. And then the brand is like, wait a sec, that doesn't say Range Rover. The people that are really interested in the body kit and everything will be like, oh yeah, that's actually quite cool.
Okay, so this one is a company called Skittles. And so there's two. They've done two interesting campaigns. I never realized that Skittles were so innovative in their marketing. Obviously, we know Skittles. They're owned by the Mars company. I assume they're big in every country, particularly in Australia. People love them at the movies. They're really attached to like going to the movies. They're like little chocolate or lolly round things. Like look a bit like Smarties. We have Smarties here too, but that's a different thing. So this is all around the Super Bowl. So they like taking a different approach to the Super Bowl ads. Obviously, that's arguably the biggest marketing time in the year. A lot of people spend a lot of money on just 30 seconds of an ad. Instead of doing that, they usually do something that's slightly different, but sort of centered around it. So, for example, the first one here is a Broadway show, which they did in 2019. So on Super Bowl Sunday, instead of having an ad at the Super Bowl, they created a show which was called Skittles Commercial, the Broadway Musical.
Right.
And it was staged at the Town Hall, which is in New York City. And it comprised, so it was written by a relatively well-known Broadway script writer, and it was fully legit. Like they had rehearsals, and they had a set and everything like that. 17 cast members, all original songs, which is pretty serious. A live band.
That's a massive effort.
Yeah. Well, you're comparing this to like how much do people spend on these Super Bowl ads,
true.
right?
That's true.
Like people are spending, I don't know, is it like $10 million for 30 seconds or something?
Yeah.
And if you have like, imagine the marketing department goes, all right, let's take half of that. Let's take 10% of that and let's drop it into this. And it's only on for one night. And so they had ticket sales too. So ticket sales were between $30 and $200. I guess that would be based on the seat. And the content was focusing on the manipulation of advertising. So that was the content reoccurring throughout the narrative of the musical. And so there was ads that were promoting the musical, well, not the musical, the theatre production. And in the ad, which is linked here, we might play a bit of it. There's a lady questioning. So basically in the ad, there's two people. One person's explaining that the other person should come to this show. And the lady says, so you have to buy a ticket to see an ad. And the guy's like, yeah, it's great. Like they're like, it's very funny. And you'll see this as a reoccurring kind of like, I guess humorous theme throughout a lot of their ads. So they sold out in 2 days. They even had things like the playbook, which usually has like the cast and stuff, that had fake ads in it that were not real, like for fake companies and stuff like that.
Very interesting.
People had bootleg merch because they knew it was coming up. So people had bootleg merch out the front of the theater. People do that as like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so they took that bootleg merch and they used it in the actual production.
Yeah.
Like cast members were wearing it. And there's even a soundtrack on Spotify that they released that you can go and find. And they created a music video with the cast members, which is called Advertising Ruins Everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it was named, ready? It was named the #1 funniest Super Bowl commercial in 2019 by Forbes.
There you go.
That wasn't even in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Second one. This one is so funny. If you haven't seen this, you're going to actually love it. You need to watch it. You should just watch it now. I think we should play this.
This year, Skittles will be making a Super Bowl ad, and only showing it to one person, a teenager from Canoga Park, USA, named Marcos Menendez.
Why would you make an ad and only show it to one single person?
Because sometimes what you cannot see is more interesting than what you can see.
According to whom?
Look, I don't know. I'm just reading the news that gave me to read.
They're probably not even making a real ad.
No, you're wrong. It's a real Super Bowl ad.
It's not technically a Super Bowl ad if it's not on the Super Bowl.
I respectfully ask that you let me do my...
The CEO of Skittles definitely getting fired over this one.
Exclusive the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
That was pretty funny.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Let me just quickly explain what it is. So the ad campaign is this, which was obviously pitched to management or whatever, right? The ad campaign is we're going to create a Super Bowl ad. This was in 2017, but we're not going to play it at the Super Bowl. We're going to play it for one super fan of Skittles. And then we're going to stream that person watching the Super Bowl ad onto our Facebook account for everybody else, for the rest of the public to be able to watch as our ad for the Super Bowl. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay?
That's good.
If this wasn't confusing enough, the ad that they used to promote the streaming of the person watching the Super Bowl ad comprises of this. There's a news anchor, right? And he announces to a guy who's sitting on a couch, who's eating Skittles, obviously. He announces what I just told you. So he announces that, there's a particular person whose name is Marcos Mendez, I believe, from California. Marcos Mendez has been chosen to watch the Super Bowl ad. Only one person. Everybody, you can all watch him on the Facebook page. Watch him. It's going to be streamed live. So this is the ad promoting that. And so the guy on the couch goes, but why? What's the point in just streaming the ad to one person? And the anchor, who's on the screen, who then starts having a conversation with this guy, says, well, which is quite a philosophical phrase. He says, well, sometimes what you cannot see is more interesting than what you can see. Don't know what that means. Take from that what you want. So the guy on the couch then questions whether it can be classed as a Super Bowl ad if it's really not actually played at the Super Bowl, which is funny because it's like that's what people are thinking. Like, how can this actually be a Super Bowl ad? And then it finishes, which I think is so funny. It finishes with the guy on the couch stating that the CEO of Skittles is definitely going to get fired for this, which is so funny.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, people all watched it on the Facebook page. And so that was their Super Bowl ad 2017.
That's a marketing win. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Had you heard of that?
I hadn't heard of that. That was good.
Okay, there you go.
I like that.
Couple of short, rapid fire ones here.
Yeah.
So you can scroll down to the next one.
Yep.
So this is number 3. This is GoPuff. GoPuff is based in the US. This is their ad from 2017, although it's been going for a while, the campaign. And so GoPuff basically are a bit like we have Uber here, how you can order some convenience items. So they'll stop at 7-Elevens and they'll pick up a packet of chips for you. GoPuff specialize in that in the US. And so this ad campaign, which is really funny, it promotes the app by calling out weird orders by actual customers on their Twitter.
Oh.
And so you can see an example there that'll pop up on the screen. And it says here, the lady who just ordered 3 packets of Benadryl at 10:30 in the morning. we feel you, girl.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so that's a funny example.
And they got a gift there.
and so
yeah.
and they got a gift there, and so they've done this for quite a number of the orders, which is quite funny. I think it's an interesting marketing approach. Fourth one of 5 is a company called Milka, which I've never heard of. I don't think they're actually in Australia, but they were trying to broaden their market into Germany and France. And the way in which they did that in collaboration with a marketing firm was they released their chocolate. So it's chocolate bars, with the little squares, and they purposely left out one block. One square within the block. And on the front of it, they printed a code. I guess, I don't know if it was a QR code at that point, but some sort of code you could maybe put into a website. And it allowed the purchaser to either claim that one missing piece of chocolate by entering their home address, or to send it to a loved one by entering their home address, including a little love letter explaining what it was.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting marketing approach.
That's very interesting, yeah.
And the fifth and final one, which I think is interesting, we've talked about Airbnb. It relates. This is in 2016. So it was the Art Institute of Chicago and Airbnb, collaboration between the two. And so basically, the campaign was to generate some awareness of a new Van Gogh exhibition that was in the Art Institute. And so what they did was they transformed just a standard Chicago apartment into an immersive artwork experience. It was based on one of the particular art pieces, one of the particular paintings. And ads were plastered around the Chicago area, just merely advertising a room for rent, and sort of had the image of the room. Obviously looked a bit interesting, and included a number that the people interested who were wanting to stay there could text. And then the responses to the text messages that were automated, were in character, as if the person was like actually wanting to rent the apartment. And actually a number of respondents who responded to the ads were actually able to rent the apartment through Airbnb for $10 a night for a certain period of time.
That's great. Airbnb have done a couple of ones. Like they did Will Smith's house from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good.
Are you struggling to get your name out there? Do you want to attract more customers? Maybe just increase your revenue? Well, look no further than Newnique. They're an all-in-one marketing agency, and they'll help take your business to the next level. They believe in marketing that should be both effective and enjoyable, and I tend to agree. So they offer a range of services such as web design, branding, social media management, and lead generation. The team of experts, they'll work with you to develop a tailored marketing strategy that fits the unique needs of your business. And they don't just stop at making you look good, but they're specialized in setting up lead generating machines. Their top secret methods will help you capture and convert your leads, leading to increased sales and revenue for your unique business. So search NEW NIQ UE on Google to learn more and schedule a free marketing consultation via their website. So let Newnique take your business to the next level.
Index is a tech-focused recruitment platform passionate about scaling your engineering team, maintaining 95% placement success. To date, they've vetted over 8,000 developers, boasting on average more than 7 years experience across their recruits. Index supplies talent to industry-leading clients such as Omio, a German unicorn that's raised almost $500 million USD, Perforce, a US-based leading DevOps solutions provider with over $300 million USD in annual revenue, and many others, some of which are backed by firms such as Goldman Sachs and Y Combinator. So if you're struggling to find the right talent, concerned about high employee costs and staff turnover, Index has the solution for you. Through comprehensive assessments, in-depth interviews, and a robust vetting process, Index can provide your business with the very best international tech talent in less than 7 business days. For contracts greater than 6 months, Index is offering a 10% discount to HQLA fans the next time you hire using their platform.
We've been talking to this company who are doing some voice generation AI stuff, and that kind of made me kind of interested in that space. We've talked about it previously. We've even talked about, was it Synthesia or something like that? One of us talked about at one point, which is like the video version of that, has like an avatar, and their kind of mouth moves kind of similar to like the audio. It's like not great, but it's a good start. So I was thinking about that, and I found this interesting platform called Fliki. and it basically just creates, those little videos we used to like talk about them a bit before. The little like random informative videos that are people actually making like advertising, and it's like, I don't know, five ways to like improve your mental health or something like that. And it's got, one of them's having a
And
sleep,
it's all
one
kind of
them's
stock
eating
photos
vegetables.
and then it's
All
text
stock
over
photos.
stock photos. Yeah.
That stuff. It's one of those things. But yeah, let me just show you. It has like this cool twist. So
All right.
I'll just show you how I thought what it might be fun to do is for me to share my screen since we're like online. Let's like leverage this, right?
Absolutely.
And so I'm on my screen. Let me just like create it in front of you. Like we'll make it in 2 seconds. We'll make ourselves a little podcast.
Oh, very interested.
So the first thing to talk about is a platform called Prompt Base, which is what you can see on your screen there. I'll go back to their homepage to give you a good gauge of it. So this is a little interesting product. Again, I think it's probably going to become irrelevant quite quick as some of these other second and third layer tools to use AI become more prevalent. But right now it's an interesting product. And so basically people have created proven and effective prompts that give you just a number of variables that you can fill out. And so it kind of like, again, removes the need to think about the substance of what you actually want the outcome to be from your, search in ChatGPT or something.
That's really good consistency.
Yeah, it's an interesting product. So if we go to my account, let me show you. So let's say, for example, I want to find something and they're they're really cheap. So let's say I want something that's going to create a modern logo for $2.99. It's not going to show me the text here because you're literally just buying block text. That's all you're buying. It's nothing like super tech. You're just buying block text, and then it'll give you a few variables that you can change. And so let me show you ones that I have purchased. So if I go to my account, I've purchased 3. One of them is a LinkedIn post generator, for example, so that you can understand straight away, the content of that. I just want it to be about this topic, this many words, and that's all you say. And then it'll generate like a bunch of the phrasing that's really relevant to LinkedIn and the context around what LinkedIn is and blah, 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 right?
That's great.
One relevant for today is podcast script. So it has a pre-generated podcast script here, prompt. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to go into ChatGPT here. You can see I'm going to copy it in. And so then we're going to change 3 variables. We're going to say duration is going to be 2 minutes. And then we're going to say podcast name is, remember this is just a generic script, is HQLA. And we're going to say topic. We're going to say episode. We'll just say topic, I think. We'll say AI in everyday life, maybe something like that. Great. So then let's just see what spits out here. It's going to generate in real time. Okay, so there's a bit of a script here coming.
That's really cool. Yeah, so that's so interesting. So it's a prompt marketplace. So that's something that I hadn't thought about. That's a really cool idea. And it's very very timely because
yes.
Yeah,
it might only be relevant for a couple of weeks by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's given us a script here. Generally speaking, when you're using ChatGPT, the first thing you get is usually not the best, and so you can usually refine it a bit. So we might say make this sound more human, and so let's just let this generate one more time, and then we'll do one more change, and then we'll use that. We'll pop it into the third platform, and then we'll make ourselves a podcast episode.
So I think it would be really interesting for those visuals because I think it's actually better for the visuals than it is for the text, because even using AutoGPT or whatever, you don't exactly know how to describe the look of something, and so for some of those logo text generators, it looked really good because it showed exactly what style the logo was, and the style was really consistent, and that's one thing that's difficult to do with prompts. So
no, I totally agree. And if it wasn't for the kind of interesting twist on this next platform, I do think that would have been a good I guess demonstration. Okay, so here we go. So this is the next platform. This is called Fliki. And so I have purchased 1 month subscription on this one. Thanks, HQLA. It was cheap, don't worry.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, so now you can see a bunch of visuals connected to it. So I'm now going to clean it up a little bit, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what it's going to do. Okay, cool. So we're back. So basically, I've just cleaned up the content here a little bit, removed some of the headings. It took me, 30 seconds. So that's done now. I'll just show you a few other things you can do in here. So if we go more background music, we can choose an audio file. There's one here that I used recently that I think is quite good. And so I'm going to add that there. Maybe like, I think 15% is usually quite good. You can tell I've used this before. The other thing to note is you can go in here and you can change a bunch of the visual stuff. So you can change landscape, portrait, or square. Let's do landscape in this situation. It's going to look better on YouTube, obviously. And that is pretty good. I think we'll do medium-sized font. Again, I kind of know what I'm looking for now. Cool. So that's basically done. And so what I'm going to do is play it. So that's all done now. And so it's already allocated some visuals to it. It's going to put the transcript on the screen. And we've also got some audio. Now, the reason why this platform is really cool and the reason why I did pay the subscription price is because of the voice options. Now, there's a number of options here. So you can choose all of these languages, which is really crazy. And then you can choose all of these dialects or accent is probably what I would call it. And so obviously there's Australian there, which is cool. Fewer options. United States has the most, as you'd expect. You can choose between genders and you can choose between voice styles. Now, my personal favorite, if people are playing, my personal favorite for people who are playing along at home is Marcus as a standard voice. His is quite good, although I do think it might be a premium voice. But look at this one here. See that? It says my name on it. That is because I recorded my voice and it has created a clone of my voice.
That is very incredible.
And it's now going to play a podcast with me talking on the podcast.
So I was talking about this with someone the other day about how we can use AI to replace ourselves on this podcast, which is quite funny.
I'm almost about to do that.
Yes.
Now, one thing I have to mention is obviously this is not just simply recording just to clarify for people who didn't quite get it, this is not just going to play back something I've previously recorded because this is, as you saw, this is brand new, fresh, unique content that I've just pasted in here. So this is actually taking characteristics of my voice and using it as a clone in the voiceover. But the thing to mention here is they only had limited options on accent. And so unfortunately, Australian was not an option. So what's happened is you're about to hear my voice, what it would sound like if I had an American accent, which can be either a feature or a fault. I'm going to call it a feature. So if this podcast included two Americans, one of them being myself, this is what it would sound like. So let me play it for you. Go.
Hey there, and welcome to HQLA, the podcast where we share real-life advice for living your best life. I'm your host, Nathan, and I'm thrilled to dive into the topic of artificial intelligence and how it's taking over the world, one algorithm at a time. Have you ever wondered what Siri thinks about all day? Probably something like, why do humans keep asking me to set timers when they have perfectly good clocks on their phones?
This is like an American version of you.
Today we're going to break down what AI actually is, how it's being used right now, and how we can use it to our advantage. Personally, I've had some pretty interesting experiences with AI. One time I asked my virtual assistant to play some soothing music, and it ended up blasting death metal at full volume. Needless to say, I didn't feel very soothed. But let's get back on track. We'll talk about how AI is being used in industries like healthcare and transportation, and how it's changing the game for businesses and consumers alike. Of course, we can't talk about AI without acknowledging the concerns around privacy and bias. But don't worry, we'll keep it light and sprinkle in some jokes to keep things interesting. Personally, I'm excited about how AI can help us solve big problems like climate change and healthcare access. But I also think we need to be mindful of the potential pitfalls and use AI responsibly and ethically. So, what's your favorite AI mishap? Have you had any hilarious experiences with virtual assistants or self-driving cars? Share your stories with us on social media or in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to HQLA, and until next time, keep laughing and learning.
At the start, I was like, yeah, that is an American Nathan.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Okay, so that is... what were we talking about? That is Fliki.
No, I loved it. That was cool. That gives me the idea of like YouTube automation and like TikTok automation. We could have like a bunch of channels and just like keep making content about stuff.
I always wondered, there's a guy who makes, it's called like something productions, and he makes like he like pumps out these videos with like, it's like literally footage like that.
Yeah.
And it like explains different industries. He like talks about like the logistics of the music industry or something. And they're always really like intriguing topics. And I'm like, how does he keep making all these videos? But he literally just takes the content, probably gets it to be summarized by ChatGPT, creates it into some sort of script, pops it in something like that, puts it on YouTube, and it gets so many views.
Yeah. Well, let's get on that. So this has been episode 31 of HQLA. We talked about generative content, talked about self-fulfilling to-do lists. We talked about Fliki and a few other services there. Prompt buying, AI.
I feel like we got quite philosophical there at one point.
We talked about ethics. We had a very heated discussion about the ethics of AI, which was great. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Should we keep iterating and building on AI, or should we cut it off in its tracks? It's a very tough question, I will admit.
It is.
We talked about deepfaking The Weeknd, and we talked about
that was good.
Artists that are going to share their royalties with their fans that make the best deepfake, which is really cool. So Grimes is doing that. Overall, I reckon that was a great episode. That was really cool.
Love it. But yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody.
And we got sponsors. So shout out to Index.dev.
Yes, enjoy the ads.
Newnique.
No one else is excited about that other than us.
Yeah.
But we're excited about that.
Yep. Special thanks to Index.dev and Newnique. And this has been HQLA.
Oh, you'll find our Fliki affiliate code in the show notes. Feel free to use that.
Oh, very good.